Hey you guys, this is Kelly of Rojo Chief Clothing, and today we are going to look at this article right here. It's from Med RXIV, and it says the preprint server for health sciences, and you see who's associated with it is CSH, Cold Spring Harbor Laboratory, BMJ, and Yale. And as we know, Yale is an Ivy League, so I'm not sure about these other places, but we definitely need to look into this stuff. But anyways, it says a relationship between AB and O blood group and the COVID susceptibility. Now, as you see, there's a whole lot of people who are Asiatics. I can't even pronounce these folks' names. I'm not even going to attempt to try to, okay? But it look like they may be like Chinese, maybe. Okay, so anyway, so it says the abstract. It says the novel coronavirus disease 2019, COVID-19, has been spreading around the world rapidly and declared as a pandemic by WHO, which is the World Health Organization. Here we compared the ABO blood group distribution in 2,173 patients with the COVID-19 confirmed by SARS-CoV-2 test from the 3 hospitals in Wuhan and Shenzhen, China. With that, and normal people from the corresponding regions, the results showed that the blood group A was associated with a higher risk for acquiring COVID-19 compared with non-A blood groups, whereas blood group O was associated with a lower risk for infection compared to non-O blood groups. Pause. Now, guys, the reason why that's important is because the indigenous inhabitants of the Americas, which are the American Indians, are the ones who are mostly O. And this is something that we know, that the O blood type, I brought that article out, I published that video talking about that, about the O blood type as being, the oldest blood type in the world, and how they use it as a universal blood. Okay, so now I'm going to bring the connection. As you see here, they say O blood type is least susceptible to this disease. Okay, so it says they should encourage further investigation of the relationship between ABO blood group and the COVID susceptibility. Okay, so that's what they're doing right now. So this is what they know. So I'm going to stop it right here, and we're going to go on to another video where they're talking about using antibodies of people who survived the COVID-19. Okay, guys, now this is an article published by The Guardian, and it says medical research, coronavirus survivors' blood plasma could be used to fight infection. It says patients, carriers, and NHS staff could receive experimental antibody treatment. Doctors have drawn up plans to infuse British coronavirus patients and their carriers with blood plasma harvested from hyperimmune people. Hyperimmune, right? And so in the other article, they already said that O is basically more immune to it than other blood types, such as A, such as B, and AB, right? So, maybe that's what they mean by hyperimmune, right? Let's keep reading here. It says people who have recovered from the infection in an attempt to save lives. It says the experimental treatment will be directed at patients who were admitted to the hospital with pneumonia and caused by the virus, and hope that it reduced the number who end up on ventilators and intensive care units, the ICUs, those in close contact with COVID-19 patients, such as the NHS staff and family members, are also in line to be offered a treatment in an effort to stem the spread of the illness and further reduce pressure on the health service. The procedure relies on the fact that people who have recovered from the COVID-19 have antibodies in their blood plasma that maintain a defense against the infection. The aim is to identify those who are hyperimmune to the virus and invite them to donate blood for the treatment. Okay, so they're basically saying that they're going to invite these people to be a part of this experiment, where they're going to be using the antibodies from these folks that have survived the COVID, right? And it says the so-called covalent plasma will be given to patients and their contacts in a number of clinical trials. that are under consideration with medical funding bodies. It says Professor David Tappan, a senior research fellow at the University of Glasgow, has applied to the National Institute of Health Research to run 2 clinical trials with convalescent plasma. Startup will need to be faster than is normal, with most of those trials usually taking months or years to get approvals and to begin. So anyways, the trials will look for evidence that convalescent plasma can reduce infection and carriers so that they can continue their work, carriers so they can prevent patients deteriorating to the point that they require ventilation in ICUs, and improve the condition of those who are already severely ill, to reduce deaths and free up much needed ventilators. Trials need to be undertaken. Otherwise, we will not know if this intervention is effective and worthwhile. Okay? Then, I'm skipping down. It says the NHS Blood and Transplant has already begun to work to identify potential donors. Plasma from patients who have recovered from the COVID-19 will contain antibodies that their immune systems have produced in fighting the virus. The plasma can be transfused to very poorly patients whose immune systems are struggling to develop their own antibodies. The plasma transfusion is therefore intended to provide the poorly patient with antibodies from a recovered patient to help their body fight the COVID virus. Okay. Then it says the UK effort has been fueled by grassroots collaboration with the US, in which 100 laboratories have joined forces to produce a convalescent plasma for patients pouring into hospitals across the country. After receiving approval from the Food and Drug Administration, doctors in the US are now able to give plasma to patients under compassionate use rules. So they already, the Fed, the FDA, they already approved this, but, have they told anybody about this? I don't think they really mentioned it that much. I haven't seen it really on the news, but, I could be wrong. But it says Professor Antero Casadeville, an infectious disease specialist at Johns Hopkins University in Baltimore, Maryland, who was involved in the U.S. effort, said infusions of antibodies may be more effective if they are given early on to wipe out the virus before it causes serious damage. Potentially, he said, an infusion of convalescent plasma could protect people from the virus for several weeks. Okay, so what this reminds me of, guys, is something that was in the movie I Am Legend. So I'm going to put that clip next. Then I'm going to show you a person who's an Aborigine like us who has survived the COVID-19, and she's from Detroit. Maybe she could be O positive. Maybe not. I don't know. But I wouldn't be surprised if they ask her to be a donor.
Cures in her blood.
The article of this lady who's obviously of our descent, she's probably American Indian. Says Deadline Detroit. Now, very interesting, it will say Deadline. But anyways, it says she beat the virus. I'm a COVID-19 survivor after 10 days at Beaumont. The cases rise daily, nearly 12,800 on Friday in Michigan. But many patients live to tell about recovering from severe lung disease called the coronavirus. Chyla Harper of Farmington is one. I beat COVID-19 and I'm going home. She tells April Morton of CBS Detroit, I can't walk. She said, I couldn't breathe. It says the 44. Now, that's a master number, so that's probably another reason why they chose her too. It says the 44-year-old Farmington resident, a CPR trainer at the VA hospital in Detroit, spent 10 days at Beaumont Health Network's flagship hospital in Roll Oak. She was discharged Tuesday. She said, I felt like someone was cutting off my air. My chest was very tight. I felt like I was just gasping for air. She says that when I knew it was time to take action, I decided to drive myself there and found myself tanking all the way there, she said. After arriving at ER, she was admitted immediately and staff started critical care. She said that the days following this were a complete nightmare. She said she started coming to terms with the belief that she was not leaving the hospital alive. I had rationalized everything in my head because, I knew people were dying and I didn't see any other avenue for me. She said, I started feeling ill on March 16th with a terrible body aches and fever of 103. I went to Beaumont Dearborn and the very next morning got screened and they determined I needed to be tested for COVID-19. I was placed in quarantine at home for 7 days or until I got my results back. She said I had the worst body pains you can imagine. Even the soles of my feet had hurt. I waited for my results and didn't hear anything. She said by Saturday, March 21st, I had lost almost 12 pounds, no appetite. I couldn't tolerate food or drinks and then started coughing, not much, but a little. She said I woke up feeling like I was being strangled. I couldn't breathe. I didn't want to call the EMS because I didn't know where they would take me, so I drove myself to Beaumont Road Oak. While driving, I felt myself getting worse. So my oxygen level was at 82%. Even the oxygen, I still couldn't breathe. I was admitted, and the first 3 or 4 nights were absolutely horrific. I cried all night because I knew I was going to die. I had made my peace with God. I had no longer a fight, and my body was taking a beating. She said at this point, I had acute hypoxemic respiratory failure, infection, severe sepsis, pneumonia, and hydration. I was critical. My heart is full of hope for all of the love and support I've received. Okay, so, all right. So she basically told you what she went through. Sepsis, as we know, is poison. She was dehydrated. She had infection in her lungs, so she was going through a lot. She was going through a hell of a lot. But she had survived. Now, this is the thing. Now she has antibodies for this COVID, for this coronavirus. Now, just watch that they're probably going to approach her and ask her for her plasma in order to give it to people who become infected or who's infected already. So what do you think about this? To me, I personally feel just like everything else that they're going to be coming after our people. Unfortunately, the people who have O blood type, and especially ones who are organ donors, like, we shouldn't even be surprised. Unfortunately, But anyways, tell me what do you think about this information. Please like, share, and subscribe. I'm out.